Capitol Hoops, continuing our series Beyond the X's and O's. Today, we are privileged to be with Malcolm Battle, head basketball coach at Cesar Chavez. Coach Battle, it's a pleasure being in the school here with you. I know you guys have workouts going on today, but thanks for taking a few minutes to talk to us.
Appreciate it. I'm glad to have you over here at Chavez with us.
I want to start off by just getting a little background on yourself. I know you had a unique path, and you've really kind of resurrected your life. But tell us a little bit about Malcolm Battle growing up.
So I attended Archbishop Curl when it was an all-boys school, and it was a perennial power back in the late 80s, early 90s. I played freshman and JV basketball, and my 11th grade year, we had a major tragic incident in my family. My dad committed suicide, killed my grandmother, then killed himself, and I missed a large majority of time. So basketball wasn't even in the scope when I got back. Really wasn't doing any schoolwork, and that kind of led to not playing summer league. And then we go into the 12th grade year, and pretty much had mentally checked out. So school just wasn't on my list of things. Priorities, and it led to me. I wasn't a good person to be around. Bad behavior, bad attitude, and so my high school coach, I still call him my high school coach, even though I didn't play for him. Curl Holmes was like, "Son, this isn't gonna work," and I just became a regular student. But I still played basketball in my spare time, and he ended up calling Maryland Eastern Shore when I got accepted in the school to get me on as a preferred walk-on. And so, in my mind, second chance. I go to a pre-college program, meet the coach, working out, and and one of my Forrest Gump moments, one of my teammates who was also in summer school at the time was Keith Williams, who runs the DC Blue Devils. Yeah. And so I spent the whole summer with Keith. Go home for the summer, come back, coaches got fired. So we start fall workouts, and then the new coach that they hired is fired after 2 weeks. And so maybe about 2 weeks later, we're on our third coach. So I have 3 college coaches.
You haven't even.
I haven't played.
School's just started.
We haven't had an official practice yet.
Right.
So Bobby Wilkinson ended up taking a job at the Eastern Shore, and of course, in that ever-going youth, everything. I butted heads with him, not understanding that I was a walk-on, wasn't a scholarship kid, and so he showed me the door. And then
how long had you practiced yet?
We actually were in the middle of, we officially started practice, and if he said go left, I went right. If he said go right, I went left. And when he coached hard, and when he coached hard, I always had a rebuttal, and so it didn't work out. And he was like, "Son, I think you need to find somewhere else to play ball. You can play, but this is not going to be the place for you." And so I ended up going through classes, trying to figure out what the next move was, because I was like, I'm going to play college basketball. And that summer, stayed in the gym, and July 3rd, 1991, I'm sitting outside in front of my cousin's house, and somebody walks up to us, and I get shot. Somebody walks up to me, shoots me in the corner of my face, goes through my face, comes out my neck. And so that became a setback. But I ended up back at Eastern Shore and was trying to figure out which direction I wanted to go in. At that point, they had a new coach, but I was still struggling with getting my faculty. I probably shouldn't have been back in school. I probably should have stayed home for the year, but I didn't want to be in DC, so I rushed to get back to school, and it probably, looking back on it, wasn't the best thing. So I went back to school, but I didn't play. I knew I wasn't physically able to play. And we went through the fall, got into the spring, and I slowly was getting myself back together. And we would have open gyms with most of the schools down there. And so Salisbury State, which was at the time a Division III powerhouse, all of us would be in the gym together. Those guys, Eastern Shore guys, and guys who probably could have played college ball, who just were in school. And some of the guys from Salisbury State were saying, hey, you know, if you're not going to play down here, you should probably transfer up to Salisbury State. Transferred up there the following year, which would be 92, 93. And at this point, started figuring out it might not be the coaches, it might be me, because now I'm butting heads with a whole new group of guys. Coach Lambert and his staff at Salisbury State, I just, again, bristled at being coached hard. You tell me something, I always had a response. And so I made it through practice. We played a scrimmage against Merchant Marines, and then we had one game, and then I was done. It was like, it's not working.
So you played one game of college basketball?
One game of college basketball.
Did you get in the game?
Got in the game. I didn't get in the official game. I played against the Merchant Marines team.
Okay.
Yes, played well. It was like maybe 15 points. But you can't. Sometimes it's just best to be quiet and let coaches coach. And I didn't do that. My attitude was the worst. Looking back on it, there's no way. I probably was still dealing with all the other stuff that went on, but not speaking to anybody about it, keeping them in, it just spiraled downhill. Fortunately for me, I ended up having a daughter the following year, and having kids can give you some kind of
direction.
Yeah. And so I asked myself, like, are you the type of person that your child would look up to? And the checklist was like, no. So it's like, you know what, let me get this turned around quick. And I want to be here for her. I don't want to be dead or locked up. And so, that kind of started me uphill.
So did you stay at Salisbury, or were you out after that?
I went back to Eastern Shore.
Okay.
Finished up.
Okay. What did you study?
English.
Okay.
I was an English lit major.
Okay.
I could probably write a paper in like 20 minutes. It was like, writing was like the easiest thing to me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a journalist. But then we had a program at Salisbury State where we had something was like an athletes in action deal, and we were going to the elementary schools, and I had the most fun working at that elementary school down there with those kids. So when I got back to Eastern Shore, I changed my major from English journalism to English lit with a minor in early childhood education.
Okay.
And came home, and I started off initially as a substitute teacher in PG County. And a buddy of mine was almost like a family member, Anthony Duckett, who played at Rutgers, was a member of the Spingarn 31-0 team in 1985, was working at a school called the Foundation School, and said, hey, we need behavior counselors. It's like, hey, is it paying more than substitute? Absolutely. Put my stuff in, and I've been working in that I worked in that setting for about 5 or 6 years. And I ended up being my first coaching job. I coached the middle school team for kids with emotional disabilities. And I think that's where you learn your patience from. Because they can be so volatile from time to time. We all can't be volatile. And you learn how to, de-escalate situations. You have to use all your verbal skills to try to get them to understand deductive reasoning and things of that nature. So it ended up being useful at this point in my career. I stayed there for about 7 or 8 years. Then Chavez opened up. And a buddy of mine that I worked a part-time job with named Marc Stern, who played at the University of Maryland, played defensive line. It's like, hey, they got dean of student positions open. Would you be interested in applying for one? I think you can get it. Applied, got the job when the school first opened, walked in, and it never crossed my mind to apply for anything in athletics. Not to be an athletic director, basketball coach, anything. I just wanted to do my job because I had a part-time job. I wanted to do those jobs and get out the building. And it just so happens that maybe the second year, I'm cutting through the gym on the way home, and there's this awkward kid with cornrows all over the place who stops me and is like, hey, I saw you playing basketball one day. Do you think you can help me? It's like, yeah, I mean, what you mean help? Like, well, I heard that people the guys work guys out. It's like, well, I don't know nothing about that. He's like, well, can I just go with you sometime and play basketball? Yeah, sure. Hey, let's get your mom on the phone so she knows who you're with, and we'll take it from there. And the kid ended up being Marquis Mazik. He was at 8th grade at that point, but he was awkward. He was trying to figure out just how to play. But of course, when you're the biggest kid in the school, everybody innately thinks you should be the best kid. And so he just, he was my road dog every serve.
What year was he at the time?
This would be 2000.
But he was in, what grade was he in?
He was in, no, he was in the 9th grade. So this was 2006, 2007, because he came out 10, yeah. So 2006, 2007. But every weekend, you see me, you see him.
And he played for Chavez at this time, right?
He was a 9th grader playing for Chavez, and like we talked about earlier, we didn't have. He should have played JV, but we didn't. The school opened up; they just automatically decided to jump into varsity basketball, and so that didn't work out well for him at all. Because he was the biggest kid, he was made to play down low, and in my mind, I'm thinking he's not really tall. He's the tallest kid at our school, but he's not.
Right. So
he's
by
probably,
necessity, he was playing
with his back to the basket.
Right.
But it ended up working out well for him because as he developed wing and guard skills, he still had those back to the basket skills that he would just overpower people. But
So when did you get involved with Chavez basketball?
2007, 2008.
And how did that come about?
There was nobody in the building to coach middle school boys basketball.
So your first job was coaching middle
school boys basketball.
Okay.
And we ended up winning the middle school championship.
In your first year?
First year.
First year coaching?
First time ever. First year.
Like DC Charter Middle School?
DC Charter Middle School.
So how many teams are we talking? Like
back then,
6, 8 teams?
Nah, probably about 20-something.
20-something?
It doesn't take much to open up a charter school, so everybody thinks they can have a basketball team,
right.
But it was about 20-something basketball teams back then.
Wow.
And we our first year as having a middle school program, we won a championship, and the next year most of those kids were going into high school. Varsity basketball was returning all of their kids, so there was no way those kids were going to play varsity basketball. The varsity basketball team at this point was getting pretty good. And so the kids were like, well, Coach Battle, can we start a JV program? Went to the people, the overseers of the school, and asked, like, hey, will you guys fund JV basketball? I'll coach it. If we can find somebody to coach middle school basketball. Sure. There was no JV league, though. So we just played an independent schedule.
Gotcha.
But those kids ended up making the bulk of our program in 09, 010 when we literally took off for real. So I've probably seen every phase of basketball in our building.
So how long were you the JV coach for?
Let's see, 07, 08. 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
And then what happened? How did you become the varsity coach?
So Coach Singleton, who also was a dean of students in the building, didn't get his contract renewed. And so when he didn't have his contract renewed, he decided not to. His
contract for teaching?
For teaching.
Okay.
He chose when they didn't offer him a contract. He then said, "Well, if I don't have the job in the building, then I won't coach."
Right.
I was then offered the job, but I wasn't in the building anymore at that time. I had left.
Where did you go?
I went to Boys and Girls Club to oversee youth athletics.
Okay.
Because the previous year, I had a contract extended to me. They were starting to do away with dean of student positions in the building for whatever reason.
Okay.
But the kids are like, well, Coach Battle, how's this going to look if nobody's around to coach basketball? Marquis reached out to me, and he talked about, well, look, if you're not going to coach basketball, I'm going to transfer, and some of the other kids are going to be looking for other places to go. So I sat down with my best friend, who ended up being like my associate head coach, Charles Harrison, who played at Georgetown, and was like, what do you think about doing this? And if so, coming up with a 1, 3, and a 5-year plan. He was like, let's make it happen. And so I went back and I told Coach Natero, who was the athletic director, hey, I'm going to take the job if it's still open. He was like, yeah, we made the kids aware, nobody transferred, and it's been all systems go since then.
So, but now you're back in the building.
I'm back in the building.
So what happened with the Boys and Girls Club job, and when did you come back that same year that you got the varsity job?
I was at Boys and Girls Club, so let's see, 2009 to 2015. I was at Boys and Girls Club.
So you weren't in the building.
I weren't in the building, but the proximity is so close. So the Boys and Girls Club is on Benham Road, right behind Friendship Collegiate.
Okay.
So let's say on my lunch break,
right.
jump in my car, come over here, and just pop up on you in class. It was the perfect storm. I could get to the Capitol Hill campus in no time. I could get here in no time. Most of the staff that was in place at that time were people that I had worked with. So they had my cell phone number, they had my email. So the kids, it was almost like being here. And the kids knew. So it was never like any lap or gap in.
Right.
I can get over. Nah.
So when did you come back in the building? And in what role did you
I came back
serve?
in 2015
As
assistant athletic director.
Assistant athletic director.
Yes.
And now, real quick, I know you told me before, but Chavez has a bunch of different campuses.
We have 4 schools inside 3 campuses.
So you have 3 different campuses, but all of the athletics for all of them are under this building where we are right now. Is that correct?
So we have DC Prep on Georgia Avenue, which is a middle school only. They play as its own separate middle school entity.
Okay.
We have the Capitol Hill campus, which is a high school only. They play in combination with the Parkside campus,
Which is where we are right now.
which is where we are right now. And then our middle school upstairs plays, of course, as Chavez Parkside Middle School. So we have 2 middle school programs and 1 high school program.
Okay. And your role is the assistant athletic director for the high school program?
I deal with high school athletics only.
Okay.
So
on a day-to-day basis, like when you get to school at whatever time, what are you doing until basketball every day?
So I meet with, I go to both campuses. I check on attendance, any behavioral issues, checking in with teachers, popping in on kids from all our different sport varsity teams, whether it be volleyball, cross country, basketball, football. A little bit of everything. And of course, we don't have facilities of most high schools, so then that entails like trying to make sure we have fields available and accessible to us, tracks for our track and field program. We're in the process of we've been engaged with the National Junior Academy about starting a baseball program.
Okay.
So it's always something going on. But the majority of the bulk of the stuff I do in the building is making sure that our student athletes are on the straight and narrow.
So you've been the varsity basketball coach here for...
This will be my 10th year.
Ninth
year, I'm sorry.
This will be your 9th year.
Yes.
You guys have been very successful as of late. I know last year you won the Charter League championship. Yes. Talk about just kind of your trajectory as a coach since the time you came into right now.
I actually I came in. Coach Singleton had already got the ball rolling, so I didn't come into a program that was like on the downside of things.
Right.
And I walked into a situation with a group of kids that were very, very talented. 09, 10, it was a super talented team. At that point, there was really the way the city system is set up now, with the Charter League and things of that nature, we didn't have that. Those kids probably would have competed for it. But nonetheless, it wasn't like I had to like mold anything. I had to mold them to understand the competition we were going to play, because we upped the schedule. The competition was going to be greater, and so you had to meet and exceed that talent. But other than that, he had done a great job of getting those kids prepared to play basketball. And I think the only thing we had to do was show them that life was much bigger than playing other charter schools. And so, we set about trying to put together as best you can a national schedule for a charter school. So we played Oak Hill that year in 09-10. We played Porter 6. We played McNamara. We played Curl. We played Riverdale Baptist, Coolidge, Eastern, who was very good that year.
A lot of good schools. A lot of very good schools.
A lot of good schools. It was not the norm for a charter school.
Right.
And Charles Harris, in his infant wisdom, said, that's going to be our calling card. We're going to play the strongest schedule we can. At that point, it was just about giving those kids a platform to get them to school. And like I said, this infant wisdom is like, you know what, we're going to do that every year. Every year we're going to get these kids a platform, because they are college level athletes walking around here. And there's this mentality that the mindset has gone down in the city in basketball.
No, say that again.
The talent level, there's this thought process that the talent level has gone down in the city in terms of public school basketball, charter school, public school.
Yeah.
And we were like, nah, we're gonna fix that. That won't be, that's not true at all. I mean.
And how do you think you've kind of dealt with that stigma? I mean, from the time where you started scheduling the Oak Hills to right now.
I think we've done a good job of showing that you can be competitive, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't add that there's been a lot of good other programs
right.
that has added to that. So it gives us all a melting pot. When you take Rob Nichols at Roosevelt, Vaughn Jones at Coolidge, Friendship has had some really good programs. The run that H.D. Woodson had, Coach Lafayette over Thurgood Marshall. National Collegiate has been a fairly good program over time. I mean, even as recently as Wilson, last year, and what they have on paper for this year, I think when you put all of us together, it kind of shows that it's not as bad as it may seem. But I guess it's not that one traditional powerhouse like when I was in high school. Like you could put down Dunbar, Spingarn, Coolidge, and McKinley. You could put them down for 20 wins and it'd be in the Washington Post top 20. So hopefully, we're slowly evolving back into that era.
Speaking of top 20, I know last year you guys cracked the top 20 for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Tell me kind of how you were feeling when you saw Chavez in that list for the first time, and just kind of what it meant for you personally.
I was happy for the kids because it gives them some sense of an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Personally, a couple of years ago, I just decided that I wasn't going to let that be a driving force for me. There was a time early on when I couldn't figure out why aren't we ever ranked? But I wasn't going to badge anybody about it. Hey, it was something outside my forces. But
right.
I was extremely happy for the kids, and I was extremely happy for our league. I think sometimes our league gets a little overlooked. I know in 2016 we had some really, really good teams in our league. DC has a 12 playoff team system, and we had 6 teams in it. But I think only Friendship ended up being ranked at the end of the year when they lost to Woodson in the city title. So for me, it wasn't that big a deal, but for the kids,
right.
It was, they had their chest stuck out. It meant something to them, and that's good. I mean, they, coming from on this side of town, they normally don't get to stick their chest out about a lot. So I was glad that they felt, some sense of accomplishment from that.
So I don't talk to many coaches who were kicked off their high school basketball team, then kicked out of a college team, and then were shot. And it just seems like you faced so many adversities, but here you are, a successful high school basketball coach. How are you able to use all of these adversities that have kind of been dealt your way. How are you able to use that with a group of inner city kids who may be going through some of the same things that you've gone through?
I think my high school coach, Curl Holmes, used to have a saying, "It's hard, but it's fair." And I kind of line up with the message of adversity builds character. Like, you're going to deal with some bumps in life. Hopefully you won't be dealing with the ones that I dealt with, but
Right.
you know, if you're going to put your head down and let adversity overtake you, then life is going to be very, very difficult for you, because at the end of the day, basketball is just a metaphor for life. I mean, I don't want to minimize my kids and the effort they put into it, but I don't think we have a bunch of pros walking around. So let's use this to get better with not being better basketball players, but better people. And I can tell you what direction not to take. I also believe that because of some of my previous issues as a teen and a young adult, I kind of can take a step back and not be so quick to jump and make a decision based on something.
Right.
And again, working at a level 5 school and working at a school where, there's a lot of kids coming out of poverty. For instance, Mondays are some of the worst days in the school. And people don't understand, well, why is that? Mondays and Fridays. Mondays because you don't know if a kid has ate all weekend. You don't know what has gone on in the home, because 9 times out of 10, this is a safe haven.
Right.
Fridays, there's that, am I going to get a meal this weekend? This is my last meal of the day. You don't know what the kid has going on in his community. So that Monday and Friday, you just never know what you're going to get. But if you're not in tune with that, you just automatically think, this kid is being a complete clown or whatever. And, some kids just don't share a lot of information. So you just have to, sometimes we have to sit back and assess, like, is there something else going on? And hopefully you gain trust from that kid, where if he doesn't have the trust to tell you that he at least will listen to you to say, hey, find somebody to talk to, and then hopefully they'll get the information back to you so you know how to work within those confines.
So you come in here on Mondays often to hear about crazy stuff that's been going on over the weekend? Is that a pretty standard Monday for you?
So I think I left my phone in the gym. I have an alert on my phone. It's like a police alert. So if it's something going on, the alert comes across the phone. So normally if I get an alert, and Coach Liggins, who's on our staff, also some way where he's connected with the DC government, he gets alerts as well.
This is an alert only for your kids, though?
No, it's a police report, the alert that goes out. So if I see a shooting on, say, Bank Street, I'm trying to make sure, we'll send a text out like, hey, something happened, and then we'll text the kids like, hey, everybody good? We won't say that we knew something happened, but we'll say, everybody good? Check in real quick. Coach Bowder, yeah, they see your emoji, thumbs up, X, Y, and Z. All right, we'll get back to it. And, you just keep your fingers crossed and take a deep breath Monday that, all right, even though it wasn't a basketball player, let's make sure that it wasn't some other way connected with a kid in a building. And sometimes, you can wish for the best and it'd be futile, because we are what we are, so we deal with a lot of violence.
Have you had players in your program who have been victims of violence?
Yes. Probably the best player we've ever had in the program, a young man by the name of Ern Jones, was shot in the head and thrown from a car in Landover.
When was this?
So this was 09-10. He would have been on that team. He was having some issues, and so he decided that he would get a GED. School, I can't do school anymore, I'm gonna get a GED. I talked to him, said, hey, just try it one more time. Coach Bowder, I just don't think I can do it. Started weighing on me, and then the odd thing is,
was he still playing basketball at this time?
he was still playing, but he wasn't. So he wasn't playing for our school.
Okay.
He was still working out,
right.
but he wasn't playing competitively. The odd or the crazy thing about this was, I was over a buddy's house watching Monday Night Football, and was walking out of his house, and it was police all up and down the street. Police everywhere. And I walked back in the house and like, man, it is army police on your street. He was like, man, I wonder what happened. They had crime tape at the end of his street, which was a dead end. Thought nothing of it. Got in the car, went home. The next morning, I'm sitting in my office upstairs, flipping through the paper, and I'm reading the crime blotter in the Metro section. Aaron Jones killed. That can't be. And then I'm looking at the address. I'm like, hold up, that's where I was last night. So I now start making phone calls because Aaron Jones is a common name.
Yeah.
About an hour to 2 hours later, it confirmed that the murder that I walked past to get, where that was at the end of the street that I was on, was my former play.
Wow.
And again, conversation with Coach Harrison and Coach Liggins was like, okay, so know that every kid has to have some kind of plan of action once they get their high school diploma. Whether it's I'm going to college, and every kid can't play college ball. I get that. Well, Coach, but I don't want to do college anymore. I'm not sure if I want to sit in the classroom anymore. Fine. Are we doing the Firefighters Academy? Are we going to trade school? Are we going to the police academy program? What are we doing? Because what we're not doing is nothing. That's not going to go.
How active are you in like helping these kids figure out a plan of action?
I'm not gonna say we are extremely active in it.
As a coaching staff?
As a coaching staff and as a school. I can't attend any more kids' funerals. Like, nah. And I know that doing that still, doesn't change the direction of how things might go, but at least I sleep a little better knowing that if you're here right now doing this, you're not here doing idle,
right,
in the middle of something that could end up costing you your life.
So, Coach Battle, in addition to being a basketball coach, you're obviously a mentor, someone who's very invested in these kids' lives. Where do you kind of draw the line and say it's beyond basketball? I know basketball is kind of the primary focus, but I know there's so much more to it, especially in a DC public charter school.
I would probably say making them better people is the focus. Now if you can play basketball attached to that, that's great. But again, I go back to trying to make sure that we make respectable young men and women who take that on to their communities and on to their kids when they become parents and things of that nature. The basketball piece of work out, that's the easy part. And so we kind of say, we want to make sure that we are working on making them good people first and better basketball players second.
Do you find that you have more patience for kids because of situations you've been in when you were younger? Do you think you look at these kids who may be giving you problems or who may be troublesome in some capacity and you say, that was me and I got a handful of chances, so I can't be maybe quick to throw a kid off the team or something like that?
No, I really don't. We give them a leash, but it's not a very long one. Like, life just does not give you long leashes. So I'll work with you, but you might not be playing basketball. And we tell the kids all the time, we've had to remove kids from the team, but we've shared with them. That doesn't mean I don't love you any less, or I'm not going to still be checking up on you. I'm still not going to be difficult on you. But right now, you're no longer part of the basketball program. You can't come to the gym. You can't do X, Y, and Z with regards to athletics. But I'm here for you. Some of them take that, and, well, you don't care about me. I think I do. But, I understand that's your mindset, that's your mentality. But if you ask these kids, they'll tell you they want to play college basketball. And we try to explain to them, not with some of the stuff you do. and the leash is going to be almost non-existent. There is no leash. So let's get this fixed now before you leave the nest. Most of them ended up figuring it out, like, okay. And then you get the phone calls the freshman year, like, Coach Battle, you never lied. This is for real. Yeah, this is what we're trying to explain to you. So it works out. But there's a line in the sand, and when you cross it, it's done.
Coach Battle, there are 7 high schools within a 2 to 3 mile stretches here.
Yes.
Being that there are so many schools in such a small area, I'm sure you guys fight for the elite basketball players. I'm sure there's some level of competition in trying to get those guys in your door.
Absolutely.
How do you handle that? How prevalent a competition is it to get kids to come to Chavez?
It's extremely competitive from 2 different perspectives. Of course, for sports, for basketball, and then you also have, the age of education and business with charter schools and bodies mean money. Mm-hmm. So we're fighting for kids, period. It's extremely, extremely difficult because there are a lot of high schools in the area, but there aren't a lot of middle schools. So take Kelly Miller Junior High School, well, middle school, I just showed my age there. Middle school now is normally is a very strong program, but now you have 7 schools fighting for maybe those 3 or 4 kids at that school, and that can be difficult. I mean, I take the team they had in 2013. Kelly Miller had Jacob Long, who ended up coming to Chavez, who's at Bowie State now. They had the 2 twins at McNamara.
Mitchell twins?
The Mitchell twins, Jacob Long, and they had 2 young guys who are now in Oklahoma playing football. They had, I can't think of the young man's last name. His name is J-Rock. Played at H.D. Woodson, got shot right before.
Yep.
All those kids were on the same middle school team.
Okay.
And so we were in a death match to try to get all of them. We ended up getting 1, worked out well for us, but, how different would we be if you could get half of those kids here?
Right. So where do all the kids come from? If there's only 1 middle school in this zone, where do most of your kids come from?
So you have that 1 public school, then you have our middle school upstairs that we try to pull from.
Right.
And then you have, kids who might just show up, which has happened more times than that.
What about recruiting? Are you, by the letter of the law, are you allowed to go out and recruit as a charter school?
You are only in a sense that you can go out and recruit because part of charter school retention piece is going out to recruit kids. So technically, I can go out and give out promotional material. And so what I try to do is give it to not always the best kid, but a kid that might just love basketball.
Mm-hmm. And you can do this anywhere within the District of Columbia?
In the District of Columbia. What we fall into is it's a very difficult or hard sell to say, hey, send me your kid east of the river into, Mayfair and Paradise. Some parents have, and it's gone off without a hitch, but more times than not, it's like, I don't know about that one, Coach Battle.
Right.
Let's figure something else out.
Gotcha.
All in all, it went well. I mean, I think the great thing that's happened is the guys who oversee the program with me have done a phenomenal job of coaching kids up. So we've had kids walk in the building that just showed up, and maybe they might have been average basketball players, and they became somewhat above average. And then you put that with the kids that we were able to get into the building that we knew were very good talent. I mean, were very talented basketball players. Put them together, and it's been a perfect storm for us.
Tell me about Khalif Tate's journey. He has been one of the more, I guess, prized players that's kind of been in the DMV spotlight in the past few years. I'm curious, was he here all 4 years? How did he end up here? What's his story?
Khalif is the typical Chavez kid. Let me go back and so we went to go watch Jacob Long play at Kelly Miller against, which is now, Ron Brown is now a all-boys high school. At the time, it was a middle school. And there was this little guy with plaits who could shoot the basketball. But he couldn't have been any bigger than 5'6". But he could shoot and he was tough. And so, talked to him about coming to Chavez.
And how old is he at this? He's
an eighth grade at this time.
Okay.
And when I'm going to Woods, was his response. I was like, well, okay, there's no problem. I look around the gym. Who's here from Woodson to talk to you? Nobody. I'm here. I want you. I'm telling you, I want you. You can play basketball at Chavez. Thought about it, kept going to watch him play. A good friend of mine who was on the coaching staff at the time, named Coach Thomas, was instrumental in staying over. He almost set up a shop over at Ron Brown at that time. He Khalif Tate has to be at Chavez. I think from not even from a basketball perspective, I think what you guys offer in terms of making them better people will be instrumental for him. Of course, at the time, I didn't know Khalif's story that his dad had been killed, but Coach Bo did. But Coach Bo had grew up with me. He knew my father's story, and so he just kept pushing that Khalif need to be over here.
When did you talk to Khalif and tell him that you understood and that you had gone through similar circumstances?
Interestingly, Mark, we never had we didn't have the conversation until the article came out in the Washington Post. I didn't know his dad had been killed. I had no idea. Once I read the article, I was floored. Hold up. He was pretty much, his story is parallel to mine, except he didn't get kicked off the team and he wasn't acting like a clown. But I was dumbfounded because he never, and unless I'm wrong, I mean, he's had moments where his competitive nature has gotten the best of him, but he never showed any signs that there was anything going on, like this was an issue.
So he came to Chavez for 4 years?
And that's what I go back to. He's the typical Chavez kid, starting back with Marquis Mazzicchi, who we talked about earlier, or Malcolm Clark, who was a 4-year kid who was really good, who had verbal to Liberty, but had to end up going to Shenandoah. The Thompson twins or Ty Elliott, those kids stay here 4 years. Normally when kids get good and they start transcending the program, they start looking elsewhere. And of course, people start saying, hey, you're a little better than that charter school. You might want to leave. He fell right in line with those kids. This is home. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And so he stayed here 4 years, and it was storybook ending. He's probably one of my favorite players, and not even about basketball. His spirit. Yeah. I'm probably wrong for telling this story, but I'm going to share it with the world. He got a tech last year against Thurgood Marshall. Got a tech against Thurgood Marshall. And about 5 minutes to go, and I didn't put him back in. Would we win a game if we put him back in? We were up at that point. Who knows? Who's to say? We lost the game. And he was shooting darts at me in the locker room after the game. I can't believe you didn't put me back in that game. And we explained to him, that is not what leaders do. That is not what leaders do. You have to maintain some level of composure on the court. You cannot be getting texts, X, Y, Z, yada, yada, yada. midnight that night. So we left school about 9:30. We got a text at midnight. The entire coaching staff from Khalif. Y'all absolutely right. That is not how Sin is supposed to act. My self-imposed punishment is this. It won't happen again. Like, that's what you coach for. So
it says a lot about his character, right?
Extremely a lot. So in the grand scheme of things, did we lose that night? Technically, yeah. We maybe lost 2 games after that. I think we lost the last game against Gonzaga. I'm not sure we lost. That might have been the only loss after that incident. Like, he just, it's not enough accolades for that kid. I mean, I'll go on all day. Nah, he's a great kid, kid.
Coach Battle, when I came after you about getting on this little documentary series that I'm doing, you had a request for me. You said you'd love to do it, but you wanted to bring all your assistants in for the last part of it.
Yes, sir.
Every coach who I've talked to has great things to say about their assistants, but I found it awesome that you really wanted to kind of put them in the spotlight with yourself. Talk to me about that.
You know, when there's articles written in a paper, or you do, beyond X's and O's documentary, it's normally singular and head coach. And any head coach will tell you, you're only as good as the people that work with you. And so I just thought that it was an opportunity to acknowledge these brothers and sisters and, their wives and girlfriends who are also part of this program for all the work that they do. Like, there's a lot of sweat equity that goes into trying to make this go.
So with that being said, I'm gonna have each of you guys introduce yourselves and tell us what you do here for Chavez basketball.
Jamal Gilchrist, assistant coach, formerly the head JV coach.
All right.
William Liggins, assistant varsity basketball coach.
Lou White, player development and assistant coach.
Guys, tell me about Coach Battle. I've talked to him here for the last hour or so. I know, and I've heard through many other coaches and people in the DMV basketball community that he is a great leader. He leads by example. He really is invested in his kids through and through. Tell me why you like coaching with Coach Battle.
I go first. Well, I like coaching with Coach because, for one, he's honest. He's straightforward. He's not going to sugarcoat anything, and he's going to be honest with the kids as well as honest with his staff. And he's not a coach that's not willing to accept a different opinion from somebody else. Now, you get to a certain level when certain coaches, even though they have assistants, they tell them that they want that that they want that back and forth dialogue, but at the end of the day, they don't really consider their opinion.
Right.
He really considers our opinion and sometimes implements it into the game. And sometimes he don't, but that's just the way it is, but I like that about him.
I mean, he's real. I've known him since his freshman year at Archbishop Carroll High School. And we interacted. I was a senior. He was a freshman, and we interacted then. And
how we interact, coach? You bullied me?
We see the freshman kid come in, and I say, I think, I can see something in him. And, we both the same size, play the point guard. So we would, go at each other a little bit at the end of practice. I kind of posted him up, called him, tell him, hey, come on in the high rent district a little bit, see what you can do. But then later on, our paths crossed. I coached at Archbishop Carroll for a while with our old coach, Coach Holmes, and then took over the program with Bill Howes, and we were there for a while, and then Howes left and went to college ball. So I was just kind of sitting, kind of looking at kids, helping them recruit some kids here, and then I got a call from Coach Battle, hey, I want you to come be on my staff. And I'm like, really? And I didn't even know that he was coaching. So I came over, I saw one game, and it was pretty much like, hey, I'm in. I mean, and ever since then, I mean, like I say, he's real with the kids. He's real with this neighborhood. He wants to do it with neighborhood DC public school kids. You know, we're working with the kid that is not, maybe he's not that good academically. He's not a great basketball player, but he's going to play hard. We've worked with him and created a college basketball player. And he looks to do that, and we look to do anything we can, put our kids in different environments, take them out of what they see every day, get in our cars, take our cars, drive them down to a team campus in Greensboro, North Carolina. You know, drive them to a team campus at Randolph-Macon. See different things, say, hey, yeah, you can achieve this.
Right.
And that's the attitude that he brings in. Also basketball, but it's the attitude of developing a kid from this neighborhood and let him get out of this neighborhood.
What are your thoughts on coaching with Coach over here?
Man, it's a special situation. There's a lot of coaches that, you know, could take a note from. You know, I don't know whether he started out with the plan of, but as a coach, you have to spend most of your time finding out who your players are. And you have to know your players from top to bottom. You need to know what's going on in their lives. You need to know everything about the player in order to get pretty much anything out of the player. And that speaks volumes for what Coach Battle does. He knows his kids. He knows what their schedule is. He knows where they are. He knows the situation at home, you know, whether it's financial or, you know, mental situation at home. He knows that. And the coaching paradigm, 95% of coaching has absolutely nothing to do with basketball on the floor. It's everything that's going on in their lives. He knows what's going on in the kids' lives. He can imagine what's going on for the ones that touch and go, that may come around for a minute, then not come around. He knows what's going on, and that's because he's out here. So that's the biggest part of recognizing what Coach Battle does versus some other coaches that I may have seen that, you know, they're really locked in on the basketball part, you know what I mean? And just not really so much locked into what the kid may have going on. You know, and some of those decision-making processes may come with that actual communication that he has with the child, where the coaching staff, we may say, we need to do something. And he knows that this kid is going through something, and he'll say, nah, we're going to do this. And then it comes out, and it works, because he knows the shift of what the kid may go through, and he dials in on that, and they come through. And there's some things that, you know, I know there's several things I may not have known what's going on with the kid, but he knew, you know, and that right there makes you want to coach here when you know everything about the kid, what's going on with the kid, and you're able to do that.
Guys, I know one of you brought up academics and how some kids struggle with academics, but I also know that you guys have made a lot of strides in that department. Tell everyone what it is that you guys have done from an academic standpoint that's really kind of solidified the Chavez program.
I would have to say that, you know, first and foremost, I guess we could call her a coach. We have a teacher on our staff named Ms. Miller, who, no basketball stuff like Coach Lou just alluded to. She is academic head coach for all athletics at Chavez, but it started out overseeing basketball. Initially, when we took over the program, our greatest struggle was getting kids qualified, which is probably a citywide issue.
Right.
And I think Ms. Miller came onto the staff in the school at 2014. By 15, she had a whole academic program in place for a basketball team. And since 16, every kid who's played here has qualified.
What is it that she does? Is it like individual one-on-one tutoring? Is it SAT prep? Is it group teaching? What's the trick to the trade?
All the above.
Yeah.
She is maniacal in making sure that every T is crossed and I is dotted.
I mean, we've had kids who've come into high school, let's just call it plain and simple, on a third grade reading level. And she has worked with them, and we have allowed her to do her thing and work with them to the point where now these kids are qualified to go to college. That doesn't happen
In a few years.
after that.
Yeah. She's going to take 2 hours out of her own life, whether it be early in the morning or after school in the evening, to sit with the child and the teacher if there's some prevailing issues in that class. She's going to chase you down the hallway if it look like you're going to be late to class. She going to be knocking on the door at your class if it like you sleep in it. She's mom, she's principal. Like, we have the easy part, I always say. And she makes it easy for us because the academics are always straight. I mean, like, it cut no corners. And again, our kids, when they go into school, have said, oh, this falls right in line with colleges, like with my academic advisor and the athletic officers and all. And so that's what we always wanted. We wanted to mirror what college would look like for them. So they have a plan of action when they go there. But she probably could be on somebody's college campus doing that. Yeah. It's not enough, again, just like Khalif, it's not enough words to describe how much she means to the athletic program.
All right, guys. Well, this about wraps it up. It's been great getting to know you guys a little bit better. I'm going to end this with a question that I've asked every coach throughout this series. I got all 4 of you on set right now, so I'm going to get 4 different answers. If there was a pickup basketball game today at Chavez with every coach in the DMV, who would your first pick be? And you can't pick anyone who's sitting next to you. Who wants to start?
Every coach in the DMV, high school coach.
Every high school coach in the DMV, head coach. If there's an assistant, you can throw their name out too. But if there was a pickup game, who would be your guy?
I'm gonna take Singletary at Seabrook Friends.
Eric Singletary. He's gotten many votes.
Oh man.
Got my guy.
Yeah, man, you a cheater.
Singletary. I'm taking Singletary.
We talking about playing when they went in their playing day or playing now?
I mean, now is the question, but it's kind of based on what they did before.
Oh.
But now,
Now when your body all funny,
kind of combine the two, somewhere halfway down the middle.
All right. I know it's a name. I know I'm missing somebody, but can I get 2 votes?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go Will Maynard,
Yeah.
and I'm
Southern?
gonna go Chuck Henry.
Oh, you thief! You a thief!
Wait.
There we go. Who was a coach here one time as well?
Yeah.
Man, you
Wait,
how they do.
Lord, that's it. There we go.
Both my asses.
Who else we got?
I guess it's on me. Sheesh. I'm gonna take Rob Gardner.
He's gotten a bunch of votes as well.
cousin.
Is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Don't say that at the cookout.
What you gonna do, coach?
Cameras on you, big dog.
I go with my guy, Charlie Moe.
Who's
Charles
that?
Harrison.
Okay.
He's on his coach's staff.
He said
He just couldn't be here.
Couldn't be here.
He could be on the coach staff, but he's
That's
not
fine.
here.
That's fine.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, we got a good starting 5 with those 5 names there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys, this about wraps it up. The last thing I want to do is just give you the floor. I know you don't have really a forum to talk to the whole DMV basketball community, so if there's anything that's on your mind that you think is important, the floor is yours, Coach Battle.
I don't want to get on the soapbox. I just want to thank everybody in Ward 7 and Ward 8. It's a long list of people that are instrumental in helping us do what we do. I know all these brothers have families, wives, and girlfriends and kids, and they get pulled away to make sure that these kids get what they need to be successful. So me personally, I'm going to take this opportunity to thank my girlfriend, my mom, my sister, my kids who have given unselfishly of their time and don't get to see dad and their boyfriend and their son and brother because I'm normally here 18 hours a day. So I just want to thank them, and I want to thank the people in this community that wholeheartedly support this program. There are a lot of people in this community that they trust and believe in what we do. And I also want to take the time to thank Kenya Copeland and Diane Gregory, who they're almost like our teen moms are here, which is odd to say because Kenny was a student here one time. Now we're talking about teen mom. But they do all our school books and table stuff. And things
Administrative
like that.
stuff.
And Miss Jones as well. There's a lot of people, Mark, that they make this go up without a hitch.
I mean, truly takes a village.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're creating that village to move these kids on.
Well, thank you guys. It's been great catching up with you. We can't wait to see what Chavez has in store this coming season.